Johnny Carson represented the golden age of late-night television. Sitting behind the desk of The Tonight Show, Carson became one of the most trusted and familiar faces in America. His calm humor, quick wit, and ability to connect with millions made him a television legend. But behind the laughter and applause, there were also moments that carried deep emotion. Moments involving the young talents who appeared on his stage and left a lasting impression. One of those unforgettable names was Freddie Prinze. Freddie Prinze was more than just a comedian. He was a young star who seemed to arrive overnight and capture the attention of an entire generation. With his charm, confidence, and natural ability to make people laugh, he became one of the most exciting entertainers of his time. His rise was incredibly fast, but behind the success was a complicated personal journey that few people fully understood. When Freddie appeared on The Tonight Show, it was a major moment in his career. Being invited to Carson's stage was considered a sign that a performer had truly arrived. For many young comedians, Johnny Carson's approval could open doors across Hollywood. Freddie Prinze was one of those performers who seemed destined for a bright future. But years later, people looked back at those moments and wondered about the pressure behind the smile. Freddie Prinze had the kind of personality that could light up a room. Audiences saw confidence, humor, and energy. Yet, like many performers who struggle privately while appearing successful publicly, his life contained challenges that were not always visible to the world. Johnny Carson was known as someone who respected talent. He had a special appreciation for young comedians because he understood the difficulty of standing alone on stage and trying to make people laugh. Many performers who appeared on his show later described those appearances as career-changing moments. Freddie Prinze's appearance was remembered as one of those powerful television moments, a young comedian standing beside one of the biggest names in entertainment. However, the story of Freddie Prinze became much more complicated after his sudden death in 1977 at the age of 22. His passing shocked Hollywood and left many people asking questions about what pressures young stars faced behind the scenes. Over the years, stories about Freddie's struggles, his emotional state, and the people around him have been discussed many times. Among those conversations, some fans have wondered about the people who knew him during his rise, including Johnny Carson. Did Carson recognize something was wrong? Did he notice the weight of fame on a young performer? These questions have remained part of the larger conversation surrounding Freddie Prinze's life and legacy. What makes the story so emotional is not only Freddie's success, but the reminder that fame does not always reveal what someone is experiencing internally. A person can make millions laugh while carrying personal battles away from the spotlight. Johnny Carson spent much of his career surrounded by entertainers who were searching for their big break. He saw thousands of performers walk onto his stage hoping for approval. Some became legends, others disappeared from public memory. But Freddie Prinze remained one of the names people remembered because his talent was undeniable, and his story ended far too soon. Carson himself rarely focused on dramatic personal stories during his career. He was known for professionalism and for keeping much of his private life away from the public eye. That is why any discussion about his connection to Freddie Prinze often comes from the emotions people attach to that era, rather than from a public statement by Carson himself. Still, the image of a young Freddie Prinze standing on stage beside Johnny Carson remains powerful. It represents a moment when everything seemed possible, when a young entertainer had the world watching and a legendary host was giving him a chance to shine. But behind that famous smile was a human being facing struggles that many people around him could not fully see. Freddie Prinze's story became a reminder throughout Hollywood that success can come with enormous pressure. The entertainment industry celebrates stars when they rise, but it does not always show the difficult moments behind the scenes. For Johnny Carson, who spent decades watching performers chase their dreams, moments like Freddie's story likely carried emotional weight. Many people who worked with young artists later spoke about how difficult it was to know what someone was truly feeling unless they openly shared it. The tragedy of Freddie Prinze's life is that the world saw the comedian, but only a few people saw the complete person behind the laughter. And that is why, decades later, audiences still look back at his connection with Johnny Carson. They remember a young star full of potential, a legendary host who gave him a platform, and a moment in television history that became much more meaningful after time passed. Freddie Prinze may have left the world too soon, but his influence on comedy and entertainment continued. His performances, his energy, and his story remained part of Hollywood history. The question that remains is not only what Johnny Carson saw, but what everyone can learn from Freddie Prinze's journey. That behind every public smile is a private story, and sometimes the people who bring the most happiness to others are carrying struggles that the world never notices. As the years passed after Freddie Prinze's death, the entertainment world continued to reflect on the brief but unforgettable career of the comedian who seemed destined to become one of the biggest stars of his generation. His story became more than just a tale of fame and success. It became a conversation about the pressure that comes with sudden recognition and the challenges faced by young performers who find themselves at the center of public attention. Johnny Carson's connection to Freddie Prinze remained one of the most talked about parts of Freddie's rise. For many young comedians, appearing on The Tonight Show was a dream. It was a place where talent could be recognized, where a few minutes of performance could change the direction of a career forever. Freddie Prinze's appearance on Carson's program represented a major milestone. He was young, energetic, and confident. Viewers saw a comedian who had a unique ability to connect with people. He brought a fresh style and a personality that stood out from others in the industry. But behind the excitement of becoming famous was a reality that many young stars discovered. Success can bring expectations that are difficult to handle. Freddie had achieved something many performers spent their entire lives chasing. He became a television star, gained recognition across America, and earned opportunities that most aspiring entertainers only dreamed about. Yet the speed of his success also meant that his life changed dramatically in a short amount of time. The entertainment industry often creates an image of perfection. Fans see the interviews, the performances, and the moments on camera. They see the laughter and the confidence. But the private struggles of celebrities are often hidden until much later. Freddie Prinze's life became one of those stories that caused people to look deeper. People began asking questions about the challenges behind the fame and whether anyone around him understood the pressure he was facing. Johnny Carson, who had spent years interviewing entertainers, had a unique perspective. He met countless performers at different stages of their careers. He saw people chasing success, dealing with rejection, celebrating achievements, and sometimes struggling with the demands of fame. That experience made Carson someone many entertainers respected. He understood the world of comedy and knew how difficult it could be to constantly perform for others. When people look back at Freddie's time on The Tonight Show, they often focus on the contrast between the young comedian full of ambition and the heartbreaking events that followed. A moment that once represented opportunity later became part of a much larger story about talent, pressure, and the human side of celebrity. Freddie Prinze's passing affected many people in Hollywood. Fellow performers, fans, and those who had worked with him remembered his talent and his potential. Many felt that the entertainment world had lost someone who still had so much to offer. The tragedy also started conversations about how young stars are supported during periods of intense pressure. Fame can bring opportunities, but it can also bring isolation, expectations, and a feeling that someone must always maintain a certain image. For audiences who watched Freddie's performances, it was difficult to understand how someone who brought so much joy could have been facing personal difficulties. That contrast became one of the most painful parts of remembering him. Years later, documentaries, interviews, and conversations about Freddie Prinze continued to keep his memory alive. His comedy remained a reminder of his talent, while his story became a reminder of the importance of understanding what happens away from the camera. Johnny Carson's legacy was also connected to the many young performers he helped introduce to America. Throughout his career, he gave opportunities to comedians who later became major names. His stage was considered one of the most important platforms in entertainment. Freddie Prinze was one of the performers who represented that dream, a young artist given a chance to show the world what he could do. The emotional connection people feel between Carson and Freddie is not necessarily based on a single confirmed moment, but on the larger reality of two entertainers from different stages of their careers crossing paths. One was an established legend, and the other was a young star beginning a journey that ended far too soon. Many fans still wonder what could have happened if Freddie had lived longer. Would he have become one of the greatest comedians in history? Would he have created more shows, more performances, and more unforgettable moments? Those questions remain unanswered. But what is clear is that Freddie Prinze left a lasting impact despite his short career. His influence can still be seen in the way comedians talk about him and the way fans remember the energy he brought to the stage. Johnny Carson's career lasted for decades, but moments involving young talents like Freddie Prinze showed another side of his legacy. Beyond the jokes and interviews, Carson was part of the journey of many entertainers who came searching for their opportunity. The story of Johnny Carson and Freddie Prinze continues to capture attention because it represents something bigger than television. It represents the dreams of young performers, the challenges of fame, and the reminder that every person has a story beyond what the audience sees. Freddie Prinze's laughter continues to live on through the recordings and memories left behind. And while people may always wonder about the moments that happened away from the cameras, his legacy remains connected to the joy he brought to millions. The story of Freddie Prinze and Johnny Carson remains one of those Hollywood memories that continues to create emotion decades later. It was a story of a young comedian who reached incredible heights in a very short time, and a legendary television host who represented the highest level of success in entertainment. When Freddie Prinze walked onto the stage of The Tonight Show, he was not just another guest. He represented a new generation of comedians who were changing the way audiences experienced comedy. His style, personality, and confidence made people believe that he was only at the beginning of a much bigger journey. Johnny Carson had the ability to recognize talent. Throughout his career, he introduced audiences to performers who later became household names. His show became a place where comedians could prove themselves, and Freddie's appearance became one of those moments people remembered. But the years that followed showed a different side of fame. Behind the excitement, attention, and opportunities was the reality that many young entertainers faced when their lives changed over. Freddie Prinze's story became a reminder that success does not always tell the full story of a person's life. The audience sees the performances, the interviews, and the smiles, but they do not always see the struggles happening away from the cameras. That is why people continue to discuss his relationship with figures like Johnny Carson, not because of one confirmed secret moment, but because Carson represented an era of television where personal connections between entertainers often happened behind the scenes. For many fans, the idea of Carson looking back on Freddie's journey carries a powerful emotional meaning. It represents the difficult reality of watching a talented young person with so much potential face challenges that the world could not fully understand. Freddie Prinze's legacy, however, is not only connected to tragedy, it is also connected to his talent. His comedy, his performances, and his ability to connect with audiences remain the reasons people remember him. Even after all these years, people still talk about what made Freddie special. They remember his humor, his charisma, and the feeling that he brought something unique to entertainment. Johnny Carson's own legacy also continues through the countless performers who appeared on his stage. His career was built around celebrating talent and giving people a chance to be seen by many. The story of Freddie Prinze is a reminder of how important those moments can be. A few minutes on television can create memories that last for generations. Looking back, the connection between Johnny Carson and Freddie Prinze represents more than just a television appearance. It represents a meeting between a legend who had already achieved greatness and a young performer who was chasing his dream. Freddie Prinze's life was short, but his impact was lasting. His journey continues to inspire conversations about comedy, fame, and the importance of understanding the person behind the performance. The laughter he created remains part of entertainment history, and the questions surrounding his life continue to remind people that every public figure has a private story that audiences may never fully know. In the end, the most powerful part of Freddie Prinze's story is not only what was lost, but what was given. He gave audiences unforgettable moments.